Like before, we are going to start with the recitation of the sloka. Uh, anyone wants to recite the sloka? Aditi, you can tell it by yourself.
I cannot tell it by myself, but I want to do it with Mahan.
You want to read it out?
Yeah.
Okay, can you do that now?
Yeah. Asochan anvaso chasva yajnavadamscha bhasahe gatasun agatasum cha anusokanti pandita.
Wow, that's really good. Can you also tell the meaning?
Okay. Actually, I kind of don't know the whole meaning, but I know the same sloka.
Okay, let us ask others. So can you tell the sloka and the meaning?
Asochananvasochatvam pragyavadam shabashase gatasun cha nanusochanti pandita. This means you have grieved for those who should not be grieved for. The wise don't grieve for the living nor for the dead.
Okay, good. So that's the sloka that we covered last class. Let us just review that sloka. Okay, so what can we learn from the sloka? What communication skills can we learn from the previous slokas? We covered, that was the third sloka, right? So what communication skills can we learn from the previous three slokas? What can we learn? Anyone?
We learned that we should only approach God in a state where we're seeking help.
Yeah, so we looked at the state in which we have to approach the God. That's right. But how about the communication skills? You know the meaning of communication skills, right? Like when you talk to others, how should you present yourself? That is what is communication skills. So what are some of the things that you learned from the previous slokas? So how were the communications happening between Sanjaya and Dhritarashtra and uh, Krishna and Arjuna? Anything to learn from them, from their conversation? Anything? First thing is respectful, right? We need to be respectful to others when we communicate. So Krishna's level of consciousness, knowledge, and his insights are way above Arjuna's. Right? Arjuna was somewhere down below, and Krishna was somewhere way above. Right? But did Krishna deride? I mean, deride in the sense show Arjuna less. I mean, did he refer to him in a low tone? No, right? He didn't. He had to convey strong feelings so that Arjuna can learn quickly, but he did not use any such words. He just said that wise speak, do not, you speak words of wisdom, but you're not understanding simple things. That's all he said. He was very respectful to others, even though his knowledge is far superior than the other person. So that's a very important thing that you should note. Although the other person may be a child, the other person may be ignorant, the other person may be uneducated, we still have to be very respectful to the other person. So respect is one of the key communication skills that we learn from the previous sloka. And then the other communication skill is affection, right? We saw that Arjuna and Krishna were addressing each other using different names, aliases, right? And they were very kind. They were showing all the affection for each other. So that is the other skill that you should learn from these slokas. You should be very affectionate to the person who you are speaking to, right? So affection is the second lesson that we take from the previous slokas. And the third is helpfulness, right? The words that Lord Krishna used for Arjuna were very helpful. So he was trying to remove Arjuna's delusions. Arjuna was confused. So Lord Krishna was trying to help Arjuna come out of those delusions or thoughts or the weak feelings and become strong again. So the third aspect that we learn from the previous slokas is that the conversation should be helpful, right? Um, so the third is helpfulness of the talk. And the fourth is direct, right? Krishna did not use different kinds of words, or for that matter, even Arjuna, he did not, he was very direct. He did not try to cover up his weakness, right? He was quite direct. He said that, see, this is what I am feeling and I need answers. I need your help because I don't feel like I should be fighting this war. I mean, that's a many. See, who runs away from war? At least in those days, in the olden days, if somebody ran away from the war, he was considered a coward, right? So it was a very, for a soldier to walk away from a war is really shameful. But still, Arjuna clearly, directly, and openly told Krishna that he doesn't feel like fighting the war. So, the fourth characteristic that we need to learn from Lord Krishna and Lord and Arjuna's conversation is being direct. Do not try to mislead the person. Most often, this happens quite often. Um, People try to mislead and cover up their own weaknesses to present a very strong opinion, a strong impression to the others, which is really not needed. You can be direct. Um, for instance, you go to a lawyer or a doctor, and if you are not direct, what is going to happen? It's your life and death, right? The doctor or the lawyer may not understand your problem correctly and may guide you in a wrong way. So it is always important to be direct, clear and direct as much as possible, at least, um, but in a very respectful way, right? Though Lord Krishna felt that Arjuna's confusion was really, he was in a very weak mind, he did not directly tell Arjuna like that, right? He did not say, hey, you're talking like a fool. He did not say that. So you should be respectful and at the same time be direct. But Krishna did tell that the wise people, you're talking like a wise person, but your thoughts are all confused. He did say that directly, but he did not. He was very respectful when he said that. So you should be direct and still be respectful. And the fifth quality, or the fifth aspect that you can learn from the communication between Arjuna and Lord Krishna is honesty, right? Um, so, like I mentioned, Arjuna did not try to cover up his weaknesses. He was direct and he was honest. He said that, see, I don't feel like fighting this war because if the war is against my own people. I don't want to kill my own people or fight with my own people. So he was quite honest in spite of his confusion and weakness. So honesty is the fifth important communication skill. And the sixth important communication skill is insightful, right? You should have deep insights. When you talk, uh, um, you should show deep insights. Even if you speak very little, you should show a lot of insights. Um, Insights means knowledge into something, deep knowledge into something is called insight, right? So deep insights are very important. When you talk to somebody, you should show those deep knowledge of what you're talking about. Like Lord Krishna gave so many insights to Arjuna to help him come out of the out of his weakness, right? Insightfulness is also important. Talking very superficially, that means on the surface, is not going to help. It's a waste of time. In fact, this is a common mistake that many people do when they take up a new job. They talk very superficially. They ask questions which are very easy to answer. It's all very superficial. Typically, the person who is helping will not like such questions because his time is also important. So you should show. You take Bhagavad Gita. Every sloka has so much depth in it, right? Arjuna's talk or Krishna's talk, it has so much depth in it. So you should also talk very deeply. Very insightfulness is also important in your communication. There are more communication skills that you can learn through these slokas. In fact, there is one sloka which is completely devoted to communication skills. We'll cover that sloka later. But for now, there are at least a handful of these skills that you should pick up from the conversation so far, right? So those are the communication skills. First is respectfulness, second is affection, third is helpfulness, fourth is being direct, fifth is being honest, sixth is being insightful and deep, right? So six skills definitely you can learn from whatever has happened till now in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, another question. So, what is one good behavior and one bad behavior that Lord Krishna wants Arjuna to learn in the previous sloka? What is one good behavior?
That the wise do not grieve for the living or the dead.
Yes, the wise do not grieve for the living or the dead. So that's a good behavior. No, that's a good behavior, right? The wise, so not grieving for either the good or not grieving for either the living or the dead is a good behavior. And what is one bad behavior that Lord Krishna identified in the last sloka?
Grieving for those who should not be grieved for.
Yeah, grieving for those who should not be grieved for, right? So those are the two behaviors. One is good behavior and the other is the bad behavior that Lord Krishna identifies to Arjuna very clearly, right? So this is called labeling. So the information that Lord Krishna gave to Arjuna is called data, and whether it is good or bad is actually like a label to that information, right? So there are two pieces of information that Lord Krishna gave. One is that Arjuna is grieving for those who should not be grieving, for whom we should not be grieving. So that is one piece of information, and that piece of information is labeled as good or bad.
Bad.
Bad, right? That information is labeled as bad, and the other piece of information is
Good.
good, and that information is
Not grieve.
yeah. The wise people do not grieve for the living or for the dead. So that is the good behavior. So it is labeled as good. So the same thing happens for when machines learn about something. Each data that they are given is labeled as something or the other. Typically, there are only two labels, like true or false, good or bad, high or low, and so on. There can be more labels also, but typically there are only two labels. So the data that a machine gets is labeled, right? So we are trying to see how machines learn. Machines also learn just like human beings. So how do children learn? Small children, how do they learn to recognize dogs from cats, right? How do they learn? They look at a lot of data. What is the data? They look at a lot of cats. They look at a lot of dogs. When there's a dog that's coming on its way to the small child, the parent says, "Hey, it's a dog. You have to be careful." Then the child, so the label is dog, and the data is the animal that is coming towards the child, right? So the child looks at the animal and then recognizes its features. So what are the features of a dog? It has four legs. It has a long nose. It has two eyes and hairy skin. So these are all the features that the little boy tries to gather. That is for the first dog. Now, second dog, will it be the same features? No. The features, uh, the features are the same, but the values are different, right? Because the first dog, maybe the legs are short. Still, there are four legs, but the legs may be short. The second dog, which comes on its way, maybe is taller and has longer legs, right? But the features are the same, just that the values are different, right? So, the boy tries to collect all these features and the values of the features for each of the data that comes its way. Right? The boy looks at so many animals and thinks, okay, the legs can be smaller or longer. The skin can be of hairy or too hairy or less hairy, and so on. And the color can be different colors, white, brown, and so on. And the nose is somewhat long, but it's not always the same length, but it is still long. So he collects all these features and then he collects all the values for those features for each of the data that comes his way. Similarly, for cats, he looks at the cats and then collects the features. The same features, four legs, hairy skin, then cat eyes, probably round nose. This time the nose is round, kind of, and the face is also round. So, and then the height. So he looks at all these features and then realizes, oh, the dogs seem to be having longer nose and the cats seem to be having a rounder nose. So he gathers these kind of features and the values for the features and tries to remember those things. So same thing with the machines. The machines are given a lot of data for children, because the child is a human being. It is easy for the child to uh, quickly learn. He looks at, say, 5 or 10 animals and then he's able to learn. But for machines, you have to give lots and lots of data, maybe thousands of samples. In the case of the boy looked at maybe 10 or 20 samples. But in the case of the machines, you need to give thousands and thousands of samples, and those samples have to be labeled, just like the data that the boy was given, the small child was given, was labeled as a dog or a cat. The same way, the data we give to machines must be labeled. Okay? Any questions? No questions, right? Okay. Okay, so this is how machine learning works. So this is called a supervised learning model. Why is it called supervised? Because there was somebody supervised, you know the meaning of supervised, right? Supervised means there is somebody superior to teach the child. In the case of the child, maybe it was the parents or the grandparents who were labeling the data as cats or dogs, right? So we need somebody, a supervisor, to label the data. When there is a supervisor available to label the data, it is called as supervised learning. The machines uh, do what is called as supervised learning. So what happens is there's a lot of data, thousands and thousands of samples of data. So it could be text data, it could be documents, it could be images. Like the other day we saw images, right? Generating a fake image. So it could be images, it could be numbers, it could be text, it could be anything. So you have a lot of data, and each of this data sample has to be labeled. So there are a number of labels. For each sample, there's a label. So we label whether it's true or false, or whether it's good or bad, and so on. So all the data samples are labeled. Now, this data and the labels are given to an algorithm. A algorithm is basically a program, software program. And so these two are given to the program. Now, when you give the program the data to the program, you cannot give directly. You have to create features, right? Remember, the boy created features: legs, nose, eyes, skin, color, and all those were features of the dog or the cat. So similarly here, for the machines to learn, you need to come up with features, and each of those features will have values. Like the color could be either brown or white or black, or the dogs can come in many colors, right? Similarly, cats can come in many colors. So those values have to be stored also. So when you pass the data to the program, it should be in the form of feature vectors. Vectors are basically a number of, if it is one value, one feature, then it is just a single thing. But if there are a number of features like the color, like number of legs, then the length of nose, if there are number of features like that, and there are number of samples for each of the features, like the colors could be green, yellow, I mean brown, and so on. So each of those color is a feature, and that feature can have several values like green, brown, white, black, and so on. So each of that is called a vector. The green, you will learn this in your math also. When you study matrices, maybe in seventh grade or eighth grade, you will learn about matrices. So when you learn about matrices, you will learn about vectors. Vectors are nothing but a series of values, like green, brown, white, black, and so on. So like that, you have a number of features, and each of these features will have vector of values. So color is a feature. It has a vector of values, green, brown, and so on. Then number of legs is a feature. It has only one value, 4. And maybe the length of legs is another feature. It can have 3 centimeters, 4 centimeters. So the boy cannot measure the length in centimeters, but the little boy or the little child can know roughly how much the legs measure in comparison to other animals' legs. So you can still think of them as values. But for machines, all these have to be numbers. Even the color has to be a number. How can you convert the colors to numbers? Can you guess? By assigning numbers to the colors. So white is equal to 0, black is equal to 1, brown is equal to 2, and so on. You can assign numbers. And then if the color is black, you assign 1. If the color is brown, you assign 2, and so on. So instead of saving brown, green, and all that stuff, black, white, you save 2, 3, 1, and so on, numbers instead of the colors. So every vector should be a vector of numbers. Every feature vector should be a vector of numbers when you give it to the machine. So you give the data in form of feature vectors and the labels to the program, the machine learning program, and then um, we all know that these features, not each one of them is important. Like you take the number of legs, compare it with another feature like say the length of nose. Which is more important when the child recognizes cats from dogs? Is the number of legs more important or the length of nose more important? Exactly, the length of nose is more important because the length of nose, there's a lot of variation between the length of nose of a dog and the length of nose of a cat. So like that, the features, not all of them are important. When all the features are not equally important, there is a weight, right? Every feature has a weight. So the length of nose may have a huge weight, like 100, and maybe the number of legs is anyway 4, so that feature will have very low weight, maybe probably zero point 0.1 or maybe even 0, because it's the same. It's not helping you to distinguish. So it is redundant. So like that, each feature has a weight, right? You agree? Right? So each feature has a weight. Now this machine learning program, what it does is, it basically tries to compute those weights for each of the features. So looking at number of samples, what does the boy do? This machine learning program is just like the boy's mind. What is the boy trying to do? He's assigning weights basically to the features. So the little boy is assigning a high weight to the length of nose and a very low weight to the number of legs, right? The same thing is done by the machine learning program. It tries to look at number of samples and using a lot of mathematical methods, it computes the weights for each of these features, right? So the predictive model is basically a set of weights, right? It has a value for each weight for each of the features. That's all. So that is a predictive model. Now, when a new document comes and new data comes, just like new dog or new cat comes near the boy, the child, the machine gets new data. So what does the boy do? The boy generates the features, right? The boy generates the features and values for the features. So he will decide, okay, this animal has a longer nose, and it is brown in color. So he generates those kind of feature vectors, right? For each of the feature, he gets the value. So once the values are there, he knows the weights for each of the features. Length of nose, huge weight. So he applies those weights and then decides whether the animal is a cat or a dog, right? So that's what the machine also does. The machine basically, it already has the weights here that it received from the algorithm or the program. And then when a new feature vector, new data comes, the features are generated by another program. It could be the same program also. Uh, but the program can have number of small sections, right? So this section could be generating the features, the next section could be applying the weights. So first section of the program could be actually generating the weights. The next section of the program could be generating the features. And then the third section, applying the weights to the new features. And then generating the label, whether it's a dog or cat in case of the little child, or whether it's true or false or good or bad to the data, right? So that is how machine learning works. That is how machines learn to recognize. See, in the problem that we covered with the images was also a supervised learning model, right? we already labeled the images as real images or fake images, right? We provided them program labels. So then based on the weights, it computes based on the images that are given to it, it computes the weights of the pixels. And then based on the pixel weights, it tells whether the image is correct or what is a pixel? It's a small box in the image. The image is made up of small boxes. So based on the pixels, it generates a label whether the image is fake or real, right? So this box of the machine learning program and this predictive model, there's a lot of math involved. So that is the reason why you have to be very good in math if you want to become a machine learning engineer. Artificial intelligence. So machine learning is a part of artificial intelligence, right? Um, So if you want to be an artificial intelligence engineer, you have to be very good at math because all of this is about math, right? So that's how the machine learning, the machines learn to do some work. Like in this case, to tell whether an image is real or fake, right? Um, so like that, I mean, you do see there's a lot of commonality between how machines learn and what is going on in Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna labeled the data as good and bad, and Arjuna is now using those labels to uh, to classify new data, right? So that is what is happening. Uh, so you can always you learn by comparison. You always learn by comparison. You cannot learn from vacuum, right? See, when parents teach children to learn alphabet, like when they ask the child to write A, you cannot completely say A is like this, you write like that, right? It's not like that. You have to give some analogy. You should say, like my mom, when I was learning, I still remember the time when I learned alphabet. My mom used to say that you write one full circle and one half circle. A followed by a half circle, one full circle, and then followed by a half circle. Then you get a small a. So because I already know what a circle is by then, right? Small children know. So you should always people learn by comparison. Um, so that is the reason why it is very important to uh, learn through comparison. So you're learning Bhagavad Gita, and artificial intelligence is the way to go. During your time, it will all be artificial intelligence. Everything will be, even now, a lot of things are driven by artificial intelligence. See, like this iPhone. The iPhone that I have opens based on artificial intelligence, right? It recognizes my face, right? Others' faces it doesn't recognize. It doesn't open. But my face it recognizes. How is it able to recognize? By using the same kind of algorithm, number of pictures, it took my face, different angles and all that, and then it applied the algorithm, and then the label is whether it is Vishnu or not. Two labels, yes or no, Vishnu or not. If it looks at my face, if I wear a mask, it can't recognize me, right? So if artificial intelligence is there everywhere now already, and during your time, it will be all artificial intelligence. So it is very important if you want to be in the cutting edge of technology, then artificial intelligence is the way to go, and a lot of math. You should be really good at math. Okay, that is about machine learning. Now we will switch back to Bhagavad Gita. Any questions? Everything clear? Okay, then we'll switch back to Bhagavad Gita and learn the next sloka. This next sloka is also very important. So it goes like Dehinosmin देहिनोऽस्मिन् यथा देहे कौमारं यौवनं जरा तथा देहान्तरप्राप्तिः धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यति. So this is a very important sloka because it gives a whole new idea of life and death. This is completely new concept. Many people may not even be aware of this concept. So that is the reason, and this will help you control yourself. This will help you become a much better person. This one sloka, right? So what is the meaning of this sloka? We have talked so much about this, but what is the meaning of this sloka? First is dehina. First word is dehina. Deha means body, right? In Telugu or in Indian languages, deha means body. So dehina means of the embodied. Asmin means in this. Yadha means as. Dehe, we already talked, means body, in the body. Kaumaram, Kumar, you would have heard the name Kumar, right? Kumar, what does Kumar mean? Kumar is usually is used for referring to sons of somebody, right? He is his Kumar means he is his son. Kumar generally means son, but actually it means boyhood, childhood. Uh, so Kaumaram means childhood, boyhood. Uh, Kumar is basically a son, so that's why boyhood. Yavvanam, in most of the Indian languages, it's the same. Yavanam means youth. Even in Telugu, Yavanam means youth. Jara means old age. Tadha means similarly. Dehantara means transfer of the body. So from one body to the other body. That is called Dehantara. Then Prapti in Telugu and Indian languages, some Indian languages, Prapti means achievement. In Sanskrit also it means achievement. Dhira means the courageous, the sober. Right? Tatra means thereupon. Na, you all know what na means, never. Muhyati means deluded. Deluded means confused. Moha, usually when somebody falls in love at the first sight, it is called moha. It is a confusion. It is not really love, but it is actually confusion, right? Uh, it is moha. Uh, it why is it called confusion? Because it disappears pretty quickly. You like a person by the looks and all that. Of course, some people are very deep through meditation and a lot of practice. They're able to recognize people just by looking for a few minutes and talking for a few minutes. But that is often not the case. Uh, for most of the people, uh, love at first sight is moha because they cannot understand the person completely. It is just a confusion. It is not really love, but it is confusion. That is why it is called moha, right? So the meaning of this sloka is just as in this body the embodied soul passes into childhood, youth, and old age, so also does the soul pass into another body. The firm, the courageous man does not grieve for that. Did you understand? So first thing is there are a few concepts here. First thing is that there is something called a soul inside every living being. Every living being has a soul, be it plants, be it birds, be it animals, be it people. There is a soul which gives the life, right? So that is different from the body. The body that you see is not really the person. The person is really the soul inside the body. Or actually, what is often said is the soul is covering the body. It has the body and the uh, surroundings also. The soul is many people think that it is in the heart or something like that, but the soul is actually a whole space around us. So that is the reason why Lord Buddha and others, there's a circle around his head. Did you see that anything? Lord Buddha, many gods also. Like you see Krishna in that picture. Krishna in the picture, or yeah, all God's pictures. There's a halo around the head, right? And in some pictures, the halo surrounds the entire space of the God. So just like the halo surrounds the head, the halo in some pictures surrounds the entire person, entire body of the God. So that is actually the soul. Our soul. That is the reason why many people go for darshan, right? Like some really great people like Sai Baba who lived on this earth, or even Lord Rama or Krishna. People want to have their darshan in person, not by looking on the TV and all that, but they really want to be near that person. Why? Because of the influence. The soul spreads probably the entire room also. We don't know how much it spreads for sure, but what is said is the soul spreads, occupies a whole lot of space around you. It is all around you, the soul. And the body is a small part of the soul, kind of thing. So this is a very important concept. Many people do not even know this concept. They come up with all ideas, listening here and there, they come up with ideas, fancy ideas. But the reality is that the soul is is the actual person. When you talk about a person, it is not the body that you see, but the soul which is covering the body is the person. And that soul has memory. The soul evolves with time, with lives. Uh, See, like when small children are born, so not all children are the same. You would have noticed. Like some children, they immediately recognize bhajans and prayers and mantras and all that. See, the other reason why this Bhagavad Gita and our mantras are important are because uh, of our soul. Our soul is millions of years old, right? And these mantras are also millions of years old. Bhagavad Gita is like about 5,000 years old, and the mantras, the Vedas, are thousands, millions of years old. So when you recite the Vedas, the soul really feels happy. Just like you are away from your mom for many mom and dad for say many years or maybe many months. You go to your school, college, and then for the first time, and then you come back. How do you feel when you look at your parents and your home? You feel really happy, right? Like when you remember, do you remember the first day you went to school? You felt you did not even feel like staying there. Like when you were like 3 years old or 4 years old. I still remember the first day of some of the first days of my school. So we long to see our parents, right? We'll be waiting to see our parents. So just like that, the soul, when it hears these mantras from many years old, it really feels very good. So just like in your so of course for you it is different. You are learning English, and English is kind of your mother tongue. But suppose assume that you speak English so very well, and it's like your mother tongue, and then you go to Germany tomorrow, and then you spend maybe 10 years in Germany. So whenever you hear English, you still feel good, right? Although you start speaking in Germany and all that, you still feel good when you listen to English, right? Because you're so much used to it. Although you spend same thing with big people, right? Um uh, they may be talking to you in English, but when they are in their work and everywhere else, In order, I mean, about 30 years back, people who came to US, 30 or 40 years back, or even before that, people who came to US hardly got an opportunity to talk in any other language other than English. So for such people, when they hear their mother tongue being spoken, it really feels very good for them, right? It's the same thing with the soul. Same thing with the soul. When it hears the mantras, which are millions of years old, the soul really feels very good. So that is the other reason why you should learn Vedas and Bhagavad Gita and all these Sanskrit things. Sanskrit also is important because your millions of years back, you were only speaking Sanskrit, or thousands of years back, 4,000 years, 5,000 years back, we were all speaking Sanskrit. Lord Krishna, Arjuna, they were all speaking Sanskrit. And the soul, which is really you, uh, has been used to Sanskrit for so many years. So when you listen to the Sanskrit, you feel very good. Your soul feels very good. You may not, your body may not realize it, but your soul feels very good. So that is the reason why Sanskrit, Vedas, mantras, all these are very important to keep your soul happy and in a state of bliss, right? Okay, now let us come back to this sloka. So what Lord Krishna is saying is that just like um, the soul, whatever you, what are you? You are basically the soul. You are not this body. You are the soul, right? Just like your soul passed through childhood, you are this small baby when you were born. We could hardly hold you in your hands, right? In two palms, right? So you pass through that childhood, then you pass through infancy, then you pass through what is it called? Uh, what is the next stage called? Toddlers. Yeah. Then you pass through toddlers, and then what is it called? Youth. Yeah, youth, and then adult, then old age. So the soul passes through all these phases. Just like the soul passes through all these phases, it passes through from one body to another body. So, so when a person dies, he or she does not really die. It, the soul simply wants to discard that old body and move on to a new, younger body. That's what happens, right? Just like you change your dresses, right? So these days you change dresses very easily. Every day you change like two or three dresses. Some people when they stay at home. But in olden days may not be that often. So so when there weren't that many clothes also maybe. Uh, Still for some people there aren't many clothes. Like you take the homeless, they just have a pair of clothes. See, Lord Rama, the Pandavas, they all left their palaces with a pair of, even for that matter, Lord Buddha, they left their palaces on just a pair of clothes. Right? They did not take anything with them, just a pair of clothes. So when that pair of clothes becomes very torn, very old, what do you have to do? You have to get a new pair of clothes, right? So after 14 years, when they come back, when they came back to their palaces, like Lord Rama came back after 14 years, Pandavas came back after 13 years, the palaces, they could buy new clothes, right? So they discard the old clothes and get the new clothes. Right? The same thing with the soul. It discarded the old body and got a new body. Right? So typically, what happens is when in the home when somebody dies and the same
Next. Yeah.
Okay. There was a small disconnect. Maybe it's not getting shared or something. Okay. Sorry about that. We lost the charge. The charge went down. Um, so just like the body, the soul passed through childhood, youth, and old age, passing from one body to other is just another step for the um, soul. So, do you feel bad when you discard old clothes and get new clothes? No, right? So the same thing. When somebody gets a new body, when discards old body and gets new body, they should not feel bad. Nobody should feel bad, right? In fact, in olden days, people used to celebrate when somebody died. Even now, I mean, in one way, of course, people feel very bad, but uh, but still, there is a small kind of celebration when on the day when the person died, right? Yeah, I'm trying to get it short. So, of course, you miss the person, you miss all the memories and all that, but those memories and all that are because of the attachment. See, you don't cry when you change your clothes, get new clothes, but you do cry. You feel very bad when your close friends go away. Like you go to an excursion, Europe trip, and the last day when you say bye bye to all your friends after 14 days or 21 days or something like that, you feel like crying, right? Why? Whereas when you leave your clothes, old clothes, you'll feel happy, right? But when you say bye to your good friends, you cry. Why is the difference?
Because you spent less time.
Yeah, first thing is less time. But sometimes, even if you spend say one day, you feel very bad when you say goodbye to somebody, right? Uh, so why is that? Like you go to daycare, and then you feel very bad even just for a day. You feel very bad when you're coming away from the daycare. Some children cry when they come out of the daycare, right? So why is that? Even though you spend very little time with them, you cry. So why is that? Yeah, like Aditi is saying in the chat room, attachment. Yeah, that is right. It is because of attachment. You get attached to the body much more than you get attached to the clothes. So you're very easily attached to people because why? People have a lot more life. I mean, they do a lot more things with you than the clothes, right? They play with you. They tell you good things. They do a lot of stuff with you. So that builds the attachment with the person. So that cannot happen with the dresses, right? So that is the reason why you feel so much attached to the people, and you start crying when you part with the people, right? So um, so it's just the attachment. So what does this sloka tell you? This sloka tells you that you should not get attached because It is just, the soul is just passing from one body to the other, just like it passed through uh, uh, the childhood and all that stuff. So many things come and go, right? See, Obama came and went. He's one of the most powerful persons in the world when he was the president of the United States. So he came and went. And similarly, the sun is now setting. Right? It's going. The moon is going to come up and go down tomorrow morning. So many powerful people and powerful things. They make a huge difference in our lives. But still, we don't feel bad, right? We don't even care. Why? Because, so why don't you care? Why don't you cry when the sun sets? The sun stayed with you. It is because of the sun that we lived, right? We are even living. He's giving us life. You studied Aditya Hridayam, right? Um, so sun god gave so much to us. He makes so much to us. But still, when he sets, we don't cry. Why? Why is that? Because there's another word. Just like attachment, there's another word. And that word is knowledge. Right? Uh, knowledge of, can you say? So knowledge of the sun setting and the sun coming up. Right? Just because the sun is setting now, um, we know that the sun is going to come back tomorrow, and then we are going to have a night. We can sleep during the night. All this is all knowledge. Right? So the knowledge helps us from getting attached to something. So knowledge is a tool to develop detachment, right? And that's what Bhagavad Gita is all about. Bhagavad Gita gives you the knowledge to remain detached. So that is the most important lesson that you should learn. So attachment comes because of lack of knowledge. That's an important thing to know. You get attached to people because of lack of knowledge. If you have thorough knowledge, then you will not feel bad because you have the knowledge that see, the soul is just passing. The soul has to have, can exercise its choice, right? Suppose somebody was wearing the dress that you like the most. Your mom was wearing the dress that you like the most, and then tomorrow she wears a different dress. Do you feel bad? No, right? You think that you have the knowledge. See, mommy has a choice or daddy has a choice to change dresses. So just like that, the body is also a kind of dress for the soul. So the soul has moved from one body to the other. That's all. That's what it is. This is a very profound concept that Lord Krishna conveys in this sloka. So two things. One is two important concepts. One is attachment. The other is knowledge. The destroyer of attachment is knowledge. Right? And Bhagavad Gita gives you that kind of deep knowledge. So this sloka alone conveys so much knowledge, right? Um, uh, so another example is you cry when a $1 toy, somebody snatches $1 toy, or even if it is free, you made some, you had a small piece of this CD, you're playing with this CD which is worthless. The CD is just worthless. It is an old thing. It is no longer useful now. And then you are playing with this, and suddenly your friend pulls it away from you. You start crying. Why? Because you are attached to this. You're so much attached to this. You're playing with it, you're having a nice time with it, you get attached. There's no knowledge coming in between you and this CD, right? There's no knowledge at all. So when somebody pulls that CD from you, you start crying because knowledge is not there and it's full of attachment. So one of the questions on the chat is whether Vedas are knowledge. Vedas are even profound knowledge. But like we taught in the first class, Bhagavad Gita is the milk. If Vedas are the cows, Bhagavad Gita is the milk. So Bhagavad Gita is the essence of Vedas. The Bhagavad Gita itself is called a Panchama Veda, that means fifth Veda, and Bhagavad Gita conveys the essence of all the four Vedas. See, this sloka alone, you take this one sloka alone, it has so much profound depth in it. This can, this one sloka can help you for the rest of your life. Why? Because if you keep on remembering this meaning of this sloka, you will develop that knowledge. Um, you will develop that knowledge uh, to separate your happenings with the body from yourself. So your body is different from you. That is the key meaning that you should take from this sloka. So yes, Vedas are knowledge. It's full of knowledge. I mean, there are different parts of Vedas. Uh, uh, so some of the Vedas are in praise of God. There are Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and all that. There are some divisions of Vedas. But even when you praise the God, see, Vishnu Sahasranama is all in praise of Narayana, Lord Vishnu, right? Or Lalita Sahasranama for that matter. 1,000 qualities of Goddess Lalita. So you can consider it as a stotra, praise. You can also consider it as knowledge. There's a lot to learn from Vishnu Sahasranama. There's a lot to learn from Lalita Sahasranama. Those qualities, they're all basically qualities, right? The 1,000 qualities of Lord Vishnu or 1,000 qualities of Lord Shiva for that matter, Shiva Sahasranama, Lalita Sahasranama, Lakshmi Sahasranama, Sri Rama Sahasranama. These are all 1,000 qualities of respective gods. Uh, so one may, I mean, the ignorant may think that it is just a praise of God. Why do I have to learn? In fact, I know one of my friends. He was a very close friend of mine. He used to argue with me about Vedas. He apparently studied a few Vedas or a few sections of the Vedas, and he was telling that I'm so frustrated. All that Vedas are doing is praising the God. What is there? Why should we even learn about it? Why should we just praise the God, and what are we going to gain from it? So, but actually, there is a lot of deep knowledge in the praise of God also. Um, so Vedas are fully knowledge, completely knowledge. Even though there a lot of them are praises, they are full of knowledge. And the other key thing about Vedas is they are very cryptic. Bhagavad Gita is somewhat direct, right? It is somewhat direct. There is some depth in it. There is some, you have to apply your mind to it. But Vedas, you have to apply the mind even deeper. Um, there are a few reasons why they say that Vedas are like that. One reason they give is that gods didn't want the knowledge to for access by the demons. So when the demons read the Vedas, they will not understand because it is very deep and very cryptic. So they will not be able to understand. Whereas if it is very simple, the demons can use that knowledge to do something bad. So that is one reason they say. And the other reason itself is that it is millions of years old, right? So millions of years old, people were much more intelligent. We are seeing how the conversation between Arjuna and Krishna is happening, right? This kind of profound concept is just set in one sloka, and Arjuna could understand very easily, right? So, uh, um, so it is Bhagavad Gita is a simplified version of the Vedas. The Vedas are full of knowledge, and Bhagavad Gita is the essence of that knowledge. And millions of years back, the language was a bit cryptic. Sanskrit itself, you take Sanskrit, it is not as easy as maybe Telugu or other Indian languages, or for that matter, English or Western languages. Western languages are even more simplified, but Indian languages are somewhat difficult. Like Western languages have only 26 letters in the alphabet. Indian languages have more than double that. So the complexity was higher in olden times. So Vedas probably are very cryptic because of that. Cryptic means very involved. It is not easy to understand directly. Somebody has to decipher that meaning for you. So like Bhagavad Gita, also same thing. Um, I'm trying to tell you in many words the very cryptic information that is in the sloka. Many people may not be able to realize. See, all these movie directors shoot films based on this concept. There's a ghost, and then and all that stuff. So all that is the root of all those movies with ghosts and all that is basically this sloka. The sloka which says that you are not the body, but you are the soul. So whatever is happening to you is not to your body, but to your soul. So that is the reason why it is very important to be good. So you might gain something really great by telling a lie. You might just tell a lie, and then you might get $1,000 or whatever it is. I'm just giving you an example. But your body enjoys the $1,000. You can spend like you wish. You can have many ice creams. You can get a lot of stuff, many toys. So the body is happy. But what are you doing to your soul? You are putting the soul in a pattern which is very bad. See, now telling a lie got you $1,000, but tomorrow telling a lie may get you get people around you to really punish you, right? So you're putting the soul into a habit. See, in Hinduism and Buddhism, they say that this law of karma, whatever you do comes with you. Even if you change lives, even if you go to a new life, whatever you did is going to stay with you and will haunt you in your next life also. So again, the root of that concept also is in this sloka, right? Because the soul is remaining the same, whether it change, whether you are in this body or in the next body or in the next body, the soul is the same. That's how Lord Buddha was able to recollect all his past lives. The soul, because he connected with his soul, and he started realizing, he by meditating he went deeper and deeper and deeper into the soul, and he pulled out all those memories from the soul. The memories are like impressions. So what is human being? A human being is just a bunch of patterns, right? You are very predictable. What you do tomorrow can be easily predicted most of the time. Don't you, like some people make jokes. They say, I mean, when we were small, there were a number of people in the room. Then we used to make jokes. See, today, or for that matter, in the class, our teacher used to come, and we used to say, "See, teacher is going to come, and he's going to say, students, did you do your homework? You stand up. You, Johnny, stand up. Why are you laughing?" He's going to do it. We used to say that because it's a pattern. People are very predictable. Why are they predictable? Because the impressions stay in the soul, in the mind, in the soul. Right? Even when you leave this body, your memories are going to stay. So when you do something bad, the practice stays with you. The practice of telling a lie. And if that practice is there in your body, then and you tell a lie, see, today it is acceptable. Telling a lie is acceptable in many cases. See, in courts, if somebody tells a lie, they say that there's perjury and all that, right? But for perjury to be punished, somebody has to put a new case and all that. So So lie is sort of accepted in the legal system today. Sort of accepted. There are so many people telling lies, but they are not getting punished. So today maybe it is good, but tomorrow eventually truth will win. So in Satya Yuga, Lord Rama's time, people were only talking everything true. There was no falsity. If you go back to that kind of yuga, and which is possibly because the yugas go in a cycle. Today it is Kali Yuga, and after Kali Yuga, we may get back Satya Yuga, right? So if you take a birth in Satya Yuga and if you tell a lie, then it's really bad. Or for that matter, you go to a country where lies are severely prosecuted. Like in some Arab countries, stealing is a very punishable offense, severely punishable. Whereas in some countries it is somewhat accepted. So these are generally bad patterns or bad patterns. It's only a matter of time when they cause harm to you. So that is the reason why you should never do anything bad as much as possible, because you may get something good out of it. But remember the loss and gain that we talked. The more the loss, the more the learn. Similarly, the more the gain, the more you will learn that habit. So, for instance, you tell a lie, get $1,000, and you really like that experience. You tell it again, so that your habit becomes stronger and stronger, and it stays with you. So that is the reason why it is very important to not do anything bad, because that bad karma will stay with the soul. That pattern will stay with the soul. See, I know a girl who was very small, 2 years old, 3 years old. We used to go to the temple, and when the same song was played in the home, that girl used to recognize the mantra. The 2 year old girl, 1.5, 2 year old girl, used to say that, hey, this is the goody song. So how is that little 1.5 year old girl or 2 years old girl able to recognize mantras? Even people 60 years old are not able to recognize mantras, but that little girl was able to recognize mantras. Why is that? Because of the past life. That impression stayed. Maybe in the past life, that little girl was very deep into these Vedas and mantras and was very knowledgeable. So that carried on. So the moment the same mantra played in the home, the little girl would recognize that mantra, right? So it's all the past, whatever we do in the past lives continues with us. So that's an important lesson, another important lesson which you take from this sloka. And the other important, this is one of the very important slokas. So there's a lot of meaning to this. So another meaning that you can interpret from this is that the goal of, I mean, even from the last sloka, in the last sloka, the meaning was the wise neither grieve for the living nor the dead. When does the wise grieve? Never. So that's the same thing here. Lord Krishna is saying that you are born to be happy. Happy in the sense not doing bad things like watching TV or playing all the time, and not like that. The happiness, just like uh, the soul and body are different, happiness by means of this bodily enjoyment is different from the true happiness. The true happiness which comes from you, I don't know if you can make out the difference between the happiness that comes from knowledge and the happiness that comes from just uh, doing bodily things like watching TV or eating some nice food. There's a whole lot of difference. You will maybe, I don't know, if you may be too small to experience it now, but in future you will see the difference. The happiness that you get from learning something new and the happiness you get from eating ice creams and things like that. There's a whole lot of difference. So Lord Krishna is referring to that happiness which stays with the soul, not with the body. So it is that happiness that Lord Krishna is trying to convey in both. See, Bhagavad Gita helps you in analyzing things also. What is analysis? It is separating one thing from the other. So in this case, Lord Krishna, in this sloka, Lord Krishna is separating the body from the soul. The happiness of the soul is different from the happiness of the body. So the happiness of the body can cause the soul also to be happy, but the happiness of the soul will definitely cause the body to be happy. So that's why people are today. You see everywhere on the TV, WhatsApp, everywhere they are asking you to meditate. They're asking you to eat good food. They're asking you to do good things, charity. They're asking you to do pujas. They're asking you to do all good things. Why? Because those good things will, the happiness from those good things will go to the soul, not just to the body, but to the soul. Those are the things which make you happy, which make your soul happy. Meditation, eating sattvic food, like the fruits and all that, then doing pujas, and doing good things, charity. So all these will cause happiness to your soul. And so that is the reason why uh, they're spreading, because we are going through some really difficult times. So we want to look for the real happiness, not the short-term happiness. See, what did the short-term happiness get us? It's basically we got used to some bad patterns. We became used to greediness. We became used to so many bad things, and now we are suffering from the same bad habits, right? So Lord Krishna is saying, first thing is he is very analytical in this sloka. He is differentiating between the body and the soul, and he is saying that uh, there's no reason for grieving at all. There's no reason for feeling bad at all. The goal of life is to stay happy and pursue, like United States, the logo is pursuit of happiness, right? The constitution says that pursuit of happiness is the goal of life, right? So that is enshrined in our Vedas and Bhagavad Gita also. You are meant to stay happy, not bodily happiness, but our Vedas and our knowledge goes a little beyond what the US Constitution says. Our knowledge says that the happiness should be for the soul. It should be the eternal happiness, not for the body. That's what our knowledge says. So pursuit of happiness is there in our culture also, and it is much more profound in our culture. So the other thing you should note, I think it's a bit late, it's becoming late. Maybe because this is an important sloka, we'll continue this sloka next class also, because it's a very important sloka. There's a lot of meaning, and it is good to spend a lot of time on this sloka. So we will start with the same sloka next time also. Okay. Any questions? Everything clear? Okay, then we will stop here. We will stop with the same sloka. Asatoma satyamaya tamasoma jyotirgamaya mrityorma mrutangamaya om shanti shanti shanti. So try to learn this sloka so that we can sing it all together next class. Okay then, see you. Bye.